All right. Well, welcome everybody. It's great for you to be here today. We're excited to have you. I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Marilyn Wilson, president of RE Technology and founding partner of Wave Group. And we've got Michael Ravina, one of our long-term friends here. He's the VP of Sales and Marketing at iGuide. And he and I have been talking back and forth about, what's going on in this market and, how do you win in this market? And, just kind of just talking about it, it's obviously very different than it was. Hopefully some of you that were totally exhausted last year got a little bit of rest, and now it's time to gear up again and figure out what do we do differently. So, we work a lot with agents and brokers. I know you do too, Michael. And, we're hearing from some people that they're very nervous, right? Of course, the market has shifted a lot since this time last year. And people are like, well, should I cut back? Should I stop spending? Should I stop marketing? Should I stop promoting? And I'll tell you that from our own experience, and I know from many of our clients' experiences too, that's absolutely the wrong answer right now, right? This is the time when many people are sort of cutting back and getting afraid. This is the time for the smart leaders and the best agents and the best brokers to step in and say, I'm going to get even more aggressive, because I know that when people are cutting back, that I can even have a larger presence. And when we get done with whatever this thing is that we're in right now, I'm going to come out the other end a lot stronger. Are you hearing that too, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a lot of large teams, big brokers, top agents that are using our technology today. And, I've had an opportunity to speak to a lot of them over the last couple of months just to find out what's going on. And, that's their sentiment as well. That's how they grew their business. They were pretty aggressive. A couple of them told me that they grew their business in a downtime because they were so aggressive, and it really helped them propel their business. But it's an investment. It's sometimes a hard step to take, but it's an important one. And I think even in our business, we look at that as that this is an opportunity to make sure that we can get awareness and grow. So.
Exactly. And, one bit of advice I would give for those that are, that are looking at their market, and Lori Choate just said her market in Indiana has not shifted. Lucky for you, Lori, the rest of the market has, but Indiana is a great place, and it's more affordable than others. So that may be why. But what I'm seeing a lot of times is people they're looking at their forecast for this year relative to only last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think in most markets, I don't want to speak for everyone, but in most markets, last year was probably one of the largest, if not the largest market ever, right? In terms of revenue, volume, it was just a great market. So it's better to take a look at what your market is doing. Go back, take your financials back as far as you've got them. Go back 5 years, 10 years, as long as you've got them, and look at how this market fares relative to other markets you've been in. And I think if for those of you that may be a little worried, you're going to say it's not so bad, right? Yes, we have less inventory than we've had, but the market is still moving, and there's still a lot of great activity, and there's still a lot of pent up demand in lots of markets. So if you can, give yourself a little bit longer term perspective, and that will help you, I think, be calmer and get excited about the kinds of things that Michael's going to tell us about today. So with that, go ahead, Michael, take it away.
Sure. Well, hey, thank you very much for having me join today, and I appreciate everybody joining and listening in. We're going to kind of go back to the fundamentals in terms of really, helping give your listing that virtual advantage is how we like to call it here, because we're trying to set you up for success online so that you can help attract those buyers for your main listings. Well, one, actually, let's take a step back, is help win listings by providing a better consistent and marketing package for sellers. And that's a big thing, because right now a lot of sellers are online and they're scrutinizing what's going on in the market. They're looking at what agents are doing, and they're trying to decide, who's going to help me sell my home. And right now they're a little, I guess a lot of people are not selling because of either they're locked into great interest rates, or they're not quite ready to move and take that step up and move up because it's going to be expensive for them. So the people who need to sell are tending to sell more. And we look across as a company, we're in every market across North America. So we're seeing different things and different activities across each of these markets. Overall, definitely seeing The number of homes sold is considerably down, more down in Canada than the US. But overall, the total listings just being restricted in terms of not enough listings. And there's still a lot of good markets where the average home price in Canada from that 400 to 700,000, and in a lot of US markets from that probably a little bit lower in terms of price point. Our dollar's not worth as much as yours in the US for sure. But that $400,000 range, still moving and still a lot of demand there. So with that, I'll jump right into it. We're going to talk about home sellers, just a little bit of touch on kind of updates and information that we've gathered from NAR, from some of the search portals, all the information of what home sellers and buyers, are looking for from their agents. We'll touch on that quickly. I'll touch on some of the key elements to give that online listing your virtual advantage, how to get more people, more views on those listings, what the best practices are, without trying to make it too complicated. I think it can be complicated, and quite often what we see is a lot of people spending all this great money on marketing, but they're not doing anything with it. And that's really what the point is I want to drive home today is, you don't have to do much, but there's you can do more for sure. It's like owning a cell phone. You can do the basics on it. And that's what we want to get across today, is making sure that you're using it efficiently. But you could even take it to the next step. And my cell phone, I don't know all the technical things I could do with that it has so much capability and so many different things that you can do with it. I'm just using it for its kind of the basic purposes, and that's really what we're going to get through today. So well, let's start off with kind of like the general overview of the marketing. Really, buyers and sellers I touched on are starting online. This is where they're starting their search. If sellers quite often are looking online prior to contacting an agent, and same with buyers are kind of doing that home search and trying to understand, what is that they're looking for and what the prices are in the market. That overall, from the search portals, are doing a fantastic job in terms of really giving an understanding or a preview of what in those areas, what you like about it. They're putting in great things like walk scores. They're giving you information about schools and neighborhoods. And they do a fantastic job of grabbing the eyeballs of the consumer to get them in there and really understand those neighborhoods. The part that, where a lot of you come in is really coming down to the home. It's up to the agent to improve that home buying process down at that myopic level in terms of providing the information buyers want to see so that they can make better informed decisions. And that's up to you. And that's what we'll kind of touch a little bit more on today, because you can go and you can see a great listing, and I see this all the time, $1 million home with a few photos on it and not much more. Whereas then you see a home that's, one half of that price with, video, 3D tours, floor plans, and professional photos, really enticing, buyers to come look at that property or investigate it more and spend more time on those listings. So from home sellers, what do they expect from the real estate professional? Expectations on prices are moving slowly depending on the market. Still, again, a lot of people want to get what their neighbor got, 6 months down the road. And it's really affecting probably more the higher end homes, especially. And it's, again, different in different markets. So there's a lot of competition out there. There's not as many listings as there are agents. I just talked to an agent yesterday. They're in a market of 5,000 agents, and there's 1,000 new listings on the market. So a lot of people fighting over the food on that table, I guess. And so there's, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you attract those sellers to make sure that you're getting them on board and providing value and demonstrating that value, but also to get referred, for your next listing. And so one thing I just grabbed from the home buyer and sellers report that comes from National Association of Realtors in 2022, still one of the top things that sellers are looking for. They're looking to their agent to help market and sell that home. And, if you combine that, it's still to market and sell that home within a specific time frame. So they're really still looking towards the professional to help them through this process. And that's actually a big message when you go through this whole report, is that they're still looking to the real estate professional to help them through this process. I think it's even more so now as the market is so
Exactly.
disruptive. And so they're looking to you to be the professional and provide them guidance. And you do
That-
that in so many different ways.
That's what I was going to say is, a few months ago, you could just put a sign in the yard and the rest would take care of itself. It's a different market now. You have to go back to truly being a sales and marketing professional and take advantage of programs like this, but really pay attention to every detail. Not only for those that you're already working with, but importantly for those that you may be considering, because people don't go online just to look for properties. They go online to look for agents as well, right? So they're going to look and see what you're doing to effectively promote programs or products that you're already working with.
Exactly. And you're spot on there. So, and what we're going to talk about today is just an easy way to provide a bunch of a professional package and services out there. I know that there's so many other things that you do as a real estate professional. Being a consultant, helping people through negotiations, helping people to price their home. This is the easy part to do in order to get people on board and what you can take them through. So let's flip over to the buyer, because that's where it really starts. If attracting those buyers to the home, making it easier for them to find the right home at the right price. It's still the number one pain point for buyers. It's even getting more difficult, is to basically find that right property, that house that will be their home. And it's a frustrating process. It's challenging, and even more challenging now than ever before because of the restriction in terms of the market, pricing, interest rates, all these competing factors that are putting that pressure on that buyer to make sure that they can get what they want at the right price that they want, that they can afford going forward. And here's some stats just quickly. 41% of recent buyers took their first step looking at this whole process online. And so 19% of those buyers first contacted a real estate agent. So it's considerable, as to your point, Marilyn, is that they're looking online first and foremost. A big thing though is putting a better package online and engaging with consumers is to get them to stay on your listing longer, get them to give it a little bit more consideration. And that's really the big thing that we've seen over the years, year in and year out. On an average listing, when you have all this great media, people will stay on that listing longer. They'll explore it a little bit more, understand if they're likely to, if that's exactly what they want. And a big thing,
Michael, one other stat, I think you've shared this with me in the past. Again, if this is the time to get aggressive, this is the time to think about how am I going to secure an edge that I'm going to keep as I move forward way beyond the next couple of years, right? And isn't the number something like only 20% of listings have any kind of 3D media or any kind of virtual tour media at all attached to them? Isn't that correct? Something like that?
So yeah, and so there's two different markets. I mean, in the US, it's probably in that 20s area.
Mm-hmm.
I know in Canada, it's over that. It's higher. Like, our market share in Canada in terms of homes sold was, around and above that mark.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we're seeing right now, for the number of homes being sold across North America,
Mm-hmm.
There's more marketing on those properties than you would even see last year. So the percentage of people putting marketing on properties is more. And so when we're also looking at, I can see a lot of the top agents who are winning those listings. Who's getting the business? It is a lot of the people that are putting those professional marketing packages up front, and so they're winning the business. So there definitely is a shift. It is providing a better consumer experience. And coming out of the last few years, consumers have started to have these expectations of, what should I see online? Hey, this floor plan is fantastic. It allows me to really understand if this this property is going to be a home for me, if it works for me and my family, how it flows, where the storage is, all those things, where my kids' bedroom is going to be. And so these are all important things that really help them, make informed decisions about moving on and wanting to go see that property.
So
We're
just
all
out of
busy.
curiosity, for those people that are on the call, Just say, put a 1 in the chat if you have some sort of a virtual tour or some kind of additional media on your listings today. I'm just interested to see how many people are already doing things. So it looks like a few people are. That's good. So for those of you that maybe are not yet, then this is a really good program. I can tell you, I've interviewed agents, and especially top producing agents that use these kinds of tools, and they really swear by them. They really believe it helps them get them a marketing edge, not only in securing a listing presentation, closing a listing presentation, but then of course in securing lots of engagement and multiple offers on their properties.
Mm-hmm. And so, you know, what do buyers want? I mean, I just take this straight from NAR. Zillow has a similar consumers report, and actually floor plans rank higher on the consumer report for consumers. But you know, the top 3 things: photos still grab the people's attention, draw them in. You know, a beautiful photo is going to be, hey, let's go look at this property. If it's not so beautiful, I know from personal experience, my wife, if the photos aren't appealing, she doesn't really want to look at the property. Whereas I want to understand the space, because we're fighting for space. I live in a big city, live in a small house, and we need more room. And even the homes that look a lot bigger, and they're maybe 2 stories from my bungalow, they're really not a lot more stores, not a lot more space. And so, you know, understanding the square footage and the floor plans and how that house works is key to me. And that's number 3 on the list. But number 2 is detailed information about properties. And this, I'm going to go back to, because we've been hearing a lot about this. You know, I've been on a number of different webinars. I've been hearing it on the news. Detailed information that is reliable is a big thing that keeps coming back. We're seeing, you know, there's actually a local blog that grabs listings and goes through the listings and points out all the flaws and all the errors and mistakes. They do this, I think, once a year, and it's interesting to see how many things are wrong on a property. And so having that reliable information is important. And you know, where we tie in is important information about around square footage. That's a big caveat and ties to the value of the home. And we'll get a little bit more into that later on. But that detailed information, you know, how do I contact the agent? Having that 3D or virtual tour, that walkthrough, so I can go and see that property ahead of time. These are the top things that help the buyers make these informed decisions. And so, you know, the big thing that we talk about is, you know, how to give your listings that advantage. And so without making it complicated, it's really what I kind of break it into 3 stages: stage, share, and show. You stage it, digitally stage it. So it's, you know, get your photos in there, get your video content, your 3D tour, your floor plans, but get all those assets together. Often I see, you know, a YouTube video separate from the photos, separate from a 3D tour and the floor plan. It is not this consistent experience. Consistent, and when I say consistent about where people go to look at these properties. And when you can have it all combined together, and I'll show some examples of it, it's really impactful and powerful with having all that information in one spot that a buyer can go navigate and, again, understand if that property is right for them. Sharing your listing is just about getting more views on that property. Time and time again, I look at analytics of hundreds or thousands of agents that, you know, list properties, and I can go to the bottom of the list and sort it, and I can see a bunch that, you know, didn't get a lot of views on their property. And you go look, well, they didn't embed it onto, you know, the search portals. They didn't share it on social media. They didn't even put it on their own website. They got this marketing and then they didn't do anything with it. And it's easy to fix that or remedy that challenge. There's a lot of easy ways to do that, and that's what we'll kind of talk about today. And then showing results to your clients. That's a big thing. How did you do? What did you do to market the property? This is a great way to tuck in your clients and show the value that you brought to the table. So one thing I talk about staging your listing, professional photos. I think professional photos is almost you know, it's a table stakes. In some markets, we're seeing photos, floor plans, and 3D tours as table stakes. In our home market here, every listing, you know, that's sold is over 70% has a 3D tour, floor plans, and professional photos. 70%. When I started in this industry 6 years ago, maybe professional photos was around the 30 to 40%. Now we have markets where it's so competitive that everybody is doing a bang up job on their listings, and it's become table stakes. So staging your listings is important, and professional photos draw you in. They give you an understanding of that property. It's that emotional tie. And so when you see listings like this beautiful lifestyle shot here, I pulled this right off of Realtor, and the agent put this beautiful photo. You can see it's a very comfortable home. His guy's got his feet up. He's watching TV. Understandable. It's well staged. This is a listing, a live listing that was put up, and you kind of shake your head at it, and I'm like, it's interesting. So, it might be point in time, it might be the price, but it's kind of a reflection of you as a real estate professional that you would put this online. So, we tie it back to kind of maybe looking at your LinkedIn profile, having those photos that you kind of crop. You have your arm around somebody and you kind of crop out half your hair and half, I don't have any hair, but maybe my ear, and just to get, that picture on it. And your whole profile is, not done, not up to date. It's a reflection of you. And so this is really where a lot of those top agents that we talk to, they give that feedback. It's about professionalism. It's about doing something consistent with each one of their customers, providing that same experience and a consistent marketing plan for their properties. The other thing, the number two thing that we see on the list was property details. This is big. This is not only the price of the home or the number of bedrooms and bathrooms, but it's also about the room measurements. What's the size of the property? What are the area calculations? How big are each of those bedrooms? What is it that I'm buying in totality? Because that gives you an understanding quite quickly, not only about value, because we know that value is tied to location, of course, lot size, age of home, but also to the square footage of that property is one of those 5 key factors that ties into that. And so understanding that is really important. And so it's even more and more important, and we see this time and time again, not only in the real estate space, but also in the just any kind of consumer space. People want accurate and detailed listing information. And this is, one of the stats I got here from realtor.com, 58% buyers want accurate and detailed listing information. It's important.
And Michael, I want to stop there for a second too, because every MLS looks at the requirement or not for room dimensions differently, right? Some require it, some don't. Some brokers are worried about it. But the truth is, consumers appreciate that information, exactly what you just said, right? So even if your MLS does not require it, you're going to be providing better promotion of that property and doing a more professional job for your client if you do include them, even if they don't require you to.
Yeah. And it happens all across, like not only just about measurements and understanding that property, but I have 2 personal stories where I know people who bought a home that they thought they were on city sewer, and they bought septic tank. They didn't even know until the septic tank backed up.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then they realized, oh, wait a second, the home was listed as city sewer. Other things like the wrong types of wells. And then there's numerous cases that we normally talk about is measurement discrepancies. There's continuously there's properties that are listed using not accurate data in terms of what's on the listing, and then the home buyer realizing that they either bought something that was smaller than they were told it was, and shortchanging them, or the seller was being shortchanged. And we can go through that study, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. This is a personal experience that I had. I went online. I got hit on Instagram. This is the first and only time I bought anything off of Instagram, by the way. And I got hit with this like beautiful fire pit. A couple years ago, we're standing outside a lot. Needed some heat in this cold Canadian winters. And so I saw this online. It was a beautiful stainless steel fire pit. And it said it was about 17 inches wide or 19 inches wide and about just over a foot tall. And you can see this reference. This was the actual image on one of the pictures on the post. And so I ordered it, took 6 weeks to get to me. And I got this, beautiful stainless steel fire pit that I got to deal with. But what is this picture is not really showing is this is actually what I bought. Is that not
It's so
insane?
tiny.
Yeah, I bought a
Baby
candle
fire
holder.
pit.
So, for this $60 I spent, I realized, well, that was pretty too good of a deal to be, to be true. But at the end of the day, it's been a great story to share with people. But this is the same thing. You're not representing exactly what you're purchasing. And actually, one of my friends in my neighborhood bought the same one and he returned it, got his money back. I'm like, well, I'm going to use this as a story because this is fantastic. But that, my kids tease me to no end about this little fire pit. But the thing is, we've looked across both the US. We did a white paper with Wave Group and we looked at a US study. And we did this also in the Toronto market where we took 100 homes and we took a sample of those homes and we looked at the tax data and what the tax data was recording as the total square footage of that home. And then we looked at what we measured at each of those homes. Now, when we measure a home, we follow a method of measurement for each of those homes. And what we saw is differences of up to almost 20% below and above in terms of totals of all those homes that we looked at. And so that's challenging because if you're using tax data, where did they get those measurements from? How did they measure that property? Is that the professionalism of yourself that you want to put that number down, not knowing that it could either shortchange the buyer or the seller? And this is an example that we put up here in terms of square footage. The home, these are the extreme differences, but 275 square feet on the top property here, and potential impact to that seller was almost $250,000, right? $220,000 to the seller. And on the other side for the buyer, properties that we saw that were 232 square feet difference in terms of from what was reported on the tax record. If they use the tax record, it's 186,000 to the buyer. So the seller really losing, or vice versa, the buyer losing out. And so, you want it to be fair and equitable for both. You buy a cell phone, you know exactly how much memory is on it. You buy a consumer product, it comes and tells you exactly what it needs to be. And what's interesting, there's some markets around North America where they'll put in a range. There's also some markets that are moving the other way where they have to follow a method of measurement. Like North Carolina, they follow the ANSI method of measurement. Alberta, they follow the residential measurement standard. And there's new markets like around the Ontario, 822 markets around Ontario are now suggesting to use the residential measurement standard when they provide their square footage. But we have markets that will put in a range between 1,000 and 1,500 square feet. And so it's kind of like buying a used car. Marilyn, I told you, I'll sell you my used car. And you asked me, well, how many miles are on that? Between 50 and 80,000 miles.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
And you wouldn't have a lot of trust in what I was putting forward or trying to sell you, right? So
no, that's where Carfax came from those kinds of problems, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, numerous cases. There was a case a couple of years ago here in Ontario where they put the range down. They said it was between 2,000 and 2,500 square feet. The home was actually the agent told the buyer that it was around 2,000. The home buyer told this home seller told the buyer that it was around 2,100. And when they actually got it measured and appraised, it was at 1,450. So considerable difference. And the buyer did win that case in terms of, when they went back because they were a first-time home buyer as well. So, determining that's a big difference in terms of the size of the home. And so you want to know how big is that home, because when I'm looking online, sometimes the photos don't tell me exactly how big that home is. This is a little home in Toronto, so it's always fun to show that was for sale. How much square feet is this tiny little thing? So but also
how much was that little house? How much was that? It's probably $1 million.
I don't remember now. I've grabbed it. I'd have to go back. It was a few years ago, but it looks like typical, Toronto big city. Hey, we turned our garage into a little rental property or something.
Yeah, it's cute.
Sorry, I'm going the other way. The other big thing too is, when you're measuring a home, if you're measuring the home yourself, and we do classes on how you can measure a home and get your square footage, the important thing is if there's a dispute about measurements on a property, you have to, basically it's like math class was back in high school. You have to, you have that final answer. This is the square footage of my home, but this is how I got to that answer. And so you have to show your work. Well, you show what measurements you provided. You show exactly the sizes of each of the rooms. You show a schematic or a floor plan and what you included and didn't include, and what measurement standard you follow. So we, with our technology, we follow a couple different measurement standards: the residential measurement standard, ANSI Z, or Z765. And so these are standards ANSI's used quite frequently across US from a lot of home appraisers. And that's actually what's moved in the last year, is that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are now, for some of their appraisals, they require the appraisals to be done with that ANSI standard of measurement. So, something that maybe could help the transaction of that home faster, in terms of if you have already measured that home and you followed that ANSI standard of measure, you now have that data that you can share with the mortgage appraisers to say, hey, yeah, this has been appraised, or this has been measured professionally, and this is what the measurements are. So, but I'll show you on the floor plans as well. That's one part that I mentioned. All these floor plans here have colors on them, but if you would just see open white, or actually I can show an example of probably a property here. Sorry, I'll go to this property here. So you can see this floor plan. The garage is white and the rest of the floor plan has color and shading. Well, the color and shading is what is included in the total square footage of that property for everything that is above grade. Anything that's below grade that's shaded is just showing you what they've included. But the garage is not typically included in a method of ANSI or RMS. And so you see it's white there. So that just is depicting you and telling you that measurement is not included in there. So that basically just shows you that. And so floor plans we talked about, they really give you an understanding of the fit and flow of that property, and how it goes together. If you have a baby, is my baby's room next to mine? If I have a teenager, is their room going to be across the hall, or is it going to be on the other side of the house? Whatever it is, your preferences in terms of what's going to work for your family. So a big thing about what I like to talk about is sharing your listing. Most people get the most amount of their views from the search portals. So if you take their listing and embed it, you put it onto Realtor.com, onto Zillow. When you put it into the URL, so I'll show you a quick thing. So when you take that URL from a property, sorry, I'm just jumping around here. Let me go to this one and open it up. When you take that URL, you're going to get an unbranded link. And so you're going to post that unbranded link into your MLS software. So if it's Matrix, Paragon, whatever it is, and you put that there, and then it's going to populate into, let's look at Zillow. It will show up in Zillow. So if this is a 3D tour, it will show up here right below the main images as well. So this is an easy way to get more views onto your 3D tours and virtual tours. Same thing with Realtor.com. It shows up as a real 3D tour there. And what we've seen is that this keeps people on listings longer, and you get more views from it, because when they click on that, then it opens up. You get that 3D tour where you can walk through that property. And same on Zillow. When you click on that, that property is going to open up, and you can go and explore this property. And so something I was talking about earlier is having some sort of a virtual tour or 3D tour that includes all your content. So in here, what do agents want, or what if, in some markets they'll allow you to have agent branding on there, so you can have your branding in the tour. It will include photos of the property, and so you details about that property, downloadable floor plans as well that open up. So then you can actually now look at that property and understand how it fits and flows, and look at those floor plans in a little bit more detailed way. And here it is. It gives you that layout of that property. So better understanding. with all the room measurements, area calculations, and the method of measurement, so they know how they got to those measurements. So really a professional package in terms of what you're putting forward. So, this is what, any kind of professional provider, whatever technology to use, is giving you that technology to help you kind of put on a better listing. And
Michael,
so,
we have a question. We have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the best place to get a floor plan made for an older property?
So there's a couple, there's multiple, there's measurement companies that somebody will go in and they will hand draft out those floor plans.
Mm-hmm.
There's real estate photography companies and marketing companies. They either use technology like ours. So we have a camera system that uses LiDAR laser to measure those properties. And then that data is uploaded to us where our drafters, we have a team of drafters, professional drafters that will draft out those properties and send that back to you the next day. I think, so we have this different types of technologies like that. So the two best ways are measurement technologies or you using a measurement company or, using some sort of technology like this. So either,
we did research, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and something like 80% of consumers wanted floor plans attached to their properties because it's really hard to just look at a myriad of pictures and understand how it all comes together, right? So looking at it top down like that is just really helpful for people. So if you haven't thought about doing this, I would highly recommend you do it. Again, think about this is the time where you can secure an edge and get consistently ahead of your competition while they're not paying attention to this stuff. This is the time to do it.
Exactly. So I'll give you an example. Like a lot of use cases are, everybody's needs when they're looking for a home, it's usually their typical pain points in their current home, right? I live on a noisy street. I'm going to look for a quiet cul-de-sac to live on, and one of the pain points in my house is, we have a small bedroom, primary bedroom. Sorry. We have a small primary bedroom, can't fit a king size bed, but my wife wants a king size bed. I don't know why, but she wants a king size bed. And so, the ability to understand what's the room measurements. And I'm just showing you on this tour, you click on the measurements there, it shows you the dimensions of the room. You can actually go on screen here and you can see I'm dragging my mouse and I'm measuring and I can see, oh yeah, there's lots of room for a king size bed. Actually, the bed in this picture is a king size bed. So now I have that ability to go on screen, measure, understand how this home is going to really work for me. Even after, now I know, hey, yeah, you know what? I want to go look at this house because it meets the criteria for me in terms of understanding if this is going to work for me and my family. And I would, I can explore around a little bit more. And this is where I didn't touch on this, but you can get creative in terms of adding elements. So, a lot of people are using these 3D tours, and I'm talking about the basics, but you could differentiate yourself if you are, creative, or if you want to be more engaging, or, again, let's say if you're targeting a certain segment, you can call out certain features. Like if there's a nice fridge, you can call out and link to the reviews of that fridge to show what the price point is. Here's an example of this mirror, a beautiful mirror that I could actually link out to the website and show the features of that mirror so that people know that they're buying this nice quality mirror that sells for this price and it's got great reviews. So those are just different ways to really engage with people. The other ways that people like engage and get people on their tours, they add in elements like 360 drone work into the property. And then you can walk directly into the home. You can walk around outside, but you really get an understanding of that property. And you can see, oh, wow, yeah, this is a beautiful property. This is something that, this home is large. It's in Austin. And I can take a measurement of this living room and I can measure from one end of the living room to the other, pretty much, and maybe a little bit more there. That's the size of my house. Would fit in this. It would basically fit in the living room and in the breakfast nook. I live in a big city, small properties, but this is a beautiful, gorgeous, huge, massive property. So that but that's another way to engage. The other way too is you can add. I was talking about earlier, Marilyn, that you want to have all your content together. Well, you could even open these, some of these virtual tours with a video, and elements of this property And once that video is done playing, showing this property, it pops directly into the 3D tour, and then somebody can engage with it. So you can do all kinds of neat things to get people engaged with your properties without a lot of extra effort. And so quickly,
So
what I
Michael,
talked about,
question for you. When with all these are all great ideas, do you guys help your customers figure out how to do all these things? Because it's a little overwhelming to think about all these different ways to maximize their listings.
yeah. So we've got some downloadable elements, and maybe what I'll do is we'll follow up with, I'll provide that we can offer everybody on the webinar, 5 ways to share your listing on social media. And so it's a little bit tied into our product, but it'll give you the same ideas of what you could do, the post on Instagram and on Facebook. So just to get more views into those properties. And so do you want to drive those people back to your website where you can embed these tours and then have more traffic there? Or where do you want to drive them to? But you want to get the analytics up. You want to get as many people looking at this property as possible. And what you could do is, one day you could post a 360 of a beautiful room in a property. If you know that that's going to grab people's attention. And then the next day, this agent here, this is a different property, but to show an example, you can do a quick video screen capture. I do this on my phone all the time. Of a property, and you post it on Instagram. You post it on Instagram. Look at the property. Pretty interesting post where they have the.
Michael, your audio's getting wonky. We can't hear you.
I'm trying to turn this off. Okay.
Try that again.
So that property, so you can do a screen capture of a video, and you can post that to Instagram on your phone. You can do that within 30 seconds. So there's different little tips and tricks that we can share with you to do it. But it's about getting people to keep coming back and looking at that property, because that's really where your value is going to come out and be demonstrated. And I'll just pop quickly. I don't know how we're doing on time.
We're doing good. You're fine.
So, the big thing is you post it on your search portals. You build a plan in terms of how often you want to post that property. You can post a 360 one day. You can post photos the next day. You can post a 3D tour the third, another day. So within a week or 2 weeks, you can get more engagement and continue the engagement with that property. And especially with a lot of properties staying on the market a little bit longer now, you want to get people coming back and, investigating and looking at that property. And then, the big thing is evaluate what you're doing. And so this is always, you build a plan in terms of anything, you execute on that plan, and then you evaluate, how did that work for me? And so with that, you can embed on your website. I think we touched on all these things, so I'll just jump ahead on how you could do different ways. The big thing where you show value now, and this is the thing for me, I'm related to, my dad's been a broker for more than 50 years, agent. And one thing that I've heard over the years, and my mom used to be a real estate agent as well. And it's funny that I've ended up in the industry more on the tech side now. But the one thing that they always had struggled with, they work evenings, they worked weekends, they worked all the time. And a lot of people don't appreciate how much a real estate professional is working all the time. They're constantly on, answering their phones immediately. You think it's tough working at a business. When you're working for yourself, it's your business, your brand, your reputation. And so you're constantly putting in that lot of effort. So how do you demonstrate value? Especially when homes were selling fast, how did you go back and show the seller what you did for them in marketing? And now that they're lasting on the market a little bit more, it's having analytics is a great way to show value. So for example, our tours, and there's other tours that do this and stuff, they show analytics at the end. How many people went to the property? How many were unique visitors? I know you can get that from some of your CRMs as well. But these are great tools that if it's just simple and not complex. I'll give a quick story. There's a great agent in California that I was talking to, and he does these huge analytics reports, and I'm like, how much time does that take? And he goes, oh yeah, this takes me a lot of time to do. And every week he goes and he updates it and he shows his sellers what he's doing for them. But once he started using our product, he's like, oh, this is simple. It's just an easy, quick report. I don't have to do all that effort. And there's a lot of other products out there that do this for you as well. But it's just like, it's quick. And then you put it down in front of you can email it to them, or you can put it down and sit down with your sellers and say, okay, you know, maybe the house has been on the market for a few weeks here. Doesn't seem to be moving. We're getting a lot of people walking through the property, interested, even returning to the property, but we're not getting a lot of activity. Maybe we need to have a conversation about the price of it. And so these are the conversations we're having, because a lot of people, depending on the markets that we're in, homes are sitting now where the last 3 days are sitting now for a couple months, if the price is still kind of not meeting the new market expectations. And so that's a fine balancing act that, you know, you as professionals are walking and trying to walk a lot of these sellers through. So this is one other tool that, boom, helps you have those conversations, but even more so, it helps you show value and demonstrate value to your clients once the property's even sold, because you can go back and say, hey, this is what I did for you, and you tuck in your client so they are your next referral. There's an interesting stat, like we ran by it earlier. I think 27% of realtors, 27% of home sellers use their last realtor on the job that they to resell their home. That's a lot lower. There's another stat too in that same NAR report. I don't know it off the top of my head, but a lot of sellers say that they would use their realtor again. But the actual stat is 27%. That's a lot lower than I expected to see. And I don't know if you know what you think, Marilyn, but you know, in terms of, I'm not going to use that agent again, or because why was it? Did they sell the home and then I never heard from them again? They didn't follow up. Did they not demonstrate value? You know, you want to tuck in, you know, I've been in a career in sales. Whoever my customer is, I want to make sure I follow up. They're happy with everything, you know, made sure that I didn't just abandon them, you know, once the sale is done.
Yeah, because that's part of getting a referral too, right? They can say, my agent went totally to the map for me. They did all this amazing stuff. So if you need to sell your house now too, let me give you their number, because they did a really good job. And you can ask for the referral while you're doing this too, right?
Exactly. That's probably the best time to ask for the referral. So I want to, I guess, you know, I've kind of touched on a lot of things quickly today. I'll send over the link to a downloadable version so that people can share, you know, 5 different ways to share on social media. But there's also more stuff on our website that people can grab in terms of, you know, how to get the most out of their listing. There's, you know, interesting, one thing I'll kind of share with you, Marilyn, and I think we've done it before, we did as a demo. I've texted you, we have something called a virtual showing. So this is interesting because there's this is a little bit more work. So this is more of an advanced kind of feature. You know, you can create these 3D tours and you can redact elements, right? You can, that storage room that's full of stuff, you can take back, you can redact what's in there. And so the things like tags that we talked about earlier, so I showed this tag in this property, the ability, you know, things that are great to show are, you know, if they've upgraded their electrical panel, you know, they went from 100 amp to 200 amp if it's an older home. You know, if it's a high efficiency furnace, they're not the prettiest things to look at, but those are things that you could add into the tags and the photos and then really call out. But quite often when someone is a remote buyer or looking at a cottage or looking to move to another city, and that's happening still a lot across North America, is that I don't have time to drive there, fly there, a couple hours, get there and realize it's not right for me. And I'm looking at this nice 3D tour and walkthrough, but I can't go into the storage room. I can't go into the rec room. It's been closed off. Or even maybe a couple other rooms are turned off. Well, you as the agent can have 2 different versions of the same tour, one that's fully open. So if you know, I would put a note, this is just a tip, is I put a little note in wherever I have my listing embedded and stuff and saying on the details is that in the description of the property, if you don't get your hand slapped, you just got to double check with your MLS, but saying, for a full 3D walkthrough of every nook and cranny of this property, reach out to me as the agent. And you'll get people calling you up, reaching out to you, and now you've got those leads. And you can do two
Good idea.
things. You can either share with them the full property, or you can just open it up on a device like this or your phone, and you can text it to them. You create what was called a virtual showing. So a show on screen. I click on this button on my phone. I go to virtual showing, and on my phone, I start this virtual showing. I go click on this button, and on my phone, it's going to open up as a text. I can send that as a text message to you. And then once I send you the text message, you can open it up on your phone, but you have no control. I am walking you through the house virtually. And so as I walk you through, I say, look at this beautiful big kitchen area, lovely island. What do you think of this kitchen? And you can get that feedback right then and there on the phone. And if they say, hey, I want to see that, what's the furnace room look like? You can take them down there, and now you've created a conversation, you've got a lead, and you've engaged with that customer. And I think that is an powerful way to engage. And it's kind of that next step. It's a little bit more work, but it gets those leads. And that's what you want, is you want to be able to have these great conversations with people right now, because now you can walk them through the property and point out all the beautiful elements of that property, and you've got them on the phone. So this is just one tip that that I think is an advanced user kind of tip, is that you can make replicas of these 3D tours and share a redacted one online and a non-redacted one, with anybody who reaches out to you.
Okay, so we just got a question, Michael. If you've shown a lot of really neat ways to really maximize the value of promoting a property. How does someone participate if they want to work with you guys?
Oh yeah, so they could go to goiguide.com.
I'll put that in goiguide.com.
Yeah, GOIGUIDE.
Okay, I just put that in the chat for anybody that wants to grab that URL to check it out. And you're available in North America, you're US and Canada, right?
Yeah, and then we have a bunch of if they just click here, there's find a service provider, this orange button right here.
Mm-hmm.
And that will take them to a map in their local area where there's service providers, real estate photography companies that they could reach out to. Here, I'll post this link in the chat as well, because that'll make it a little bit.
So the good news about this is, because when I look at this, if I'm an agent, I'm like, I don't have time to do all this crazy stuff. But you work through photographers that can do this all for an agent. They don't have to do it, right? Yeah. So it's absolutely not, and that same photographer can do the high quality photos and the video and the floor plan, all of the stuff we're talking about in one package, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so different photographers and media companies do different things. Like some will do video, some will do drone, some will do it all. So there's multiple different photographers and media companies on there that you'll find. And you can shop around and see what their packages are. They all price it individually. You can see their quality of their photos and if they've got a team and if they service what areas they service.
Perfect. Okay, that's good. Because it's all awesome, but none of us have time to do all this on our own. So it's great to know there's people out there that are already professional at it. So that's awesome. Okay. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Is there any rough idea? I know it's different for different people, but just roughly, what kind of number are we talking about? Just maybe give people a range of what it costs to do something like this.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, depending on the area, it's different. Maybe, in California to, whatever across the US. But on average, like photos and 3D tour and floor plans are around that, for an average home, around that $299 mark. Some are maybe a little bit lower and some are a little bit higher, but that that's a 3D
roughly
tour,
what it'll be.
Measurements and photos for that's a really great value.
Yeah, if you doesn't matter the price point of a house. You can stand in front of this package and tell people you've done everything in your power to maximize the exposure everywhere that listing goes. And we know it goes to IDX websites, third-party websites, MLS websites, Obviously broker, your own brokerage website, your own agent website. So if you really want to get the full bang for the buck of all those different places for $300 ish, it seems like absolutely, I would totally do it. And frankly, I would expect it as a homeowner that you would be giving me this kind of exposure. There's no reason in this today's market that every listing doesn't have this type of content, in my view, but I'm biased. I like marketing, so.
Me as well.
Okay, anything else? Anybody else have any other questions? So again, it's goiguide.com. And if you look at, there's the link there, goiguide.com/residential real estate. So if you want to learn more about that. And all right, well, thanks everybody that came today. This is being recorded and we will be sending it out to all of you that registered and attended. So if you want to learn more, you can watch that again. Or if you've got someone on your team that you think can benefit, feel free to share it with them. And again, reach out to goiguide.com/residential real estate and they can get you going. Again, some of the top producers I talk to, they do every single property. It could be $100,000 property or a $10 million property. They all get that same level of quality exposure. And it really, really helps them when they're at the stage of trying to secure new listings and of course, selling properties. So with that, I guess we'll tune it out today. Thank you so much, Michael. This is awesome stuff as always. Love what iGuide does. Love how you not only create great marketing, but also great accuracy, which makes for a more professional agent as well as a better marketing agent. So good stuff. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time, Alan.
Okay. Have a great day, everybody.